عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم
Surah
السلام.
Al-Mujadala, chapter 58, verses 11. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
Recording in
بسم
progress.
الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قيل لكم تفسحوا في المجالس فافسحوا يفسح الله لكم وإذا قيل انشزوا فانشزوا يرفع الله الذين آمنوا منكم والذين أوتوا العلم درجات والله بما تعملون خبير. صدق الله العظيم. Translation: O you who have believed, when you are told space yourself in assemblies, then make space. Allah will make space for you. And when you are told arise, then arise. Allah will raise those who have believed among you and those who were given knowledge by degrees. And Allah is acquainted with what you do. Jazakumullahu khairan.
Thank you, Hanisa. A beautiful smile is the best universal welcome. It can make the day a good day easily. I welcome Dr. Preeti, Associate Professor, Department of CS and ISM, to welcome the gathering.
Thank you, Priya. Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Muhammad Kashif, respected Principal, respected Vice Principal, heads of various departments, international and national participants, and all my dear friends. Good day to one and all present here. On behalf of the management of SIE Trust, Principal, Vice Principal, and Head of the Department of Business Administration, Dean of Business Studies and Head of the Department of Corporate Secretaryship and Information Systems Management, Dr. Barkat, my colleagues, and others present here, I heartily welcome the guest speaker, Dr. Muhammad Kashif. We are incredibly thankful to him for his presence in this platform to share his knowledge. I take this opportunity to welcome our most respected principal, Dr. Abdul Aziz, who is the pillar of support of our esteemed institution. I also have great pleasure in welcoming our Vice Principal, Dr. Firdaus Jahan, the guiding factor behind all our activities. I'm glad to respectfully and cordially introduce the chief guest of the evening, Dr. Muhammad Kashif. He is currently working with GIFT University, Pakistan, as Assistant Professor, School of Business. He holds 17 years of full-time teaching experience within Pakistan. He is also a visiting professor in several countries abroad. Dr. Kashif has supervised numerous applied research projects for national and multinational companies, and he has also published 65 manuscripts in international journals and textbooks. Additionally, he has worked as guest editor for highly reputed journals such as British Food Journal and Asia Pacific Journal of Business Administration. In the editorial role, currently, he is serving as editor-in-chief, South Asian Journal of Marketing. In addition to teaching and research, he is working with Emerald Publishing as brand ambassador and has offered more than 60 online and on-site training programs in various countries. Currently, he is supervising academic and applied research projects from an interdisciplinary perspective. It's a great pleasure to welcome such a noble personality as our chief guest this evening. So on behalf of everyone, please welcome you, sir. I welcome all the participants to the FDP. We are truly delighted with your presence. Last but not least, I welcome and thank all my colleagues and friends for taking a keen part in this FDP and making it successful. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's now time for us to let our ears for the technical session 2 on decolonizing management research in an Asian context, a qualitative perspective. I request Dr. Mohammad Kasif, Assistant Professor, School of Business, Gift University, Pakistan, to take over the session.
Hello, good evening. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you very much for sparing some time for the faculty development. It is indeed a great pleasure and honor to contribute to the understanding of colleagues if I can do. I would like to thank Dr. Shireen, first of all, that she requested me several times and we had a lot of discussions. And it's just the busy schedule that last time I was like not able to make it happen due to my schedule. But by grace of Allah, today we are talking about it, hopefully. And also thanks to all the colleagues, those introduced me and those who are attending this webinar today, and all the faculty members who are joining elsewhere within India, Pakistan, Indonesia, elsewhere. I could see some familiar faces. So I welcome to all of you. Today's agenda, I will be sharing some experiences, some practical nomenclature, some practical insights as how we should decolonize qualitative research. The topic looks, it might look a bit like philosophical, but I would love having an interaction with you even during the presentation. So in case if I ask anything, if I ask to share your perspective, please don't consider it as a quiz. It is not a test of your abilities. Instead, I just wanted to hear your perspective. And once you will be sharing your perspective, let's say if there are 200 people or 300 people listening to this presentation, they might be listening to you as well. So with the name of Allah, we'll start the discussion. Today's topic is decolonizing qualitative research. The agenda for today's presentation, I would not call it a presentation per se, but the discussion mode interaction. The purpose is that we should talk about research, its current state, and the way forward. Here I will be talking about few challenges facing universities with respect to research, publication, and creating an impact in society and industry. The two key stakeholder groups when it comes to a university. Later on, we'll be talking about deconstructing qualitative research. In the first paradigm, we'll be talking about why qualitative research is needed, and then we will try to deconstruct qualitative research. We'll talk about this idea factory, that what are the various sources of ideas. I would like to share some suggestions as how we can grab some good ideas, and we'll be sharing some very interesting research papers which can help our colleagues across the departments to collaborate. Maybe someone having an interest in poetry can publish in the field of management sciences, and equally maybe someone having an interest in social psychology, in social discrimination, maybe in pollution, in trafficking, in bullying, can also contribute to the wider to a study which appeals to the wider audience, not only to the management science academia. So in this way, we'll be talking about some ideas, the sources of ideas. Later on, I will share some practical insight as how I grabbed, and I will pick one paper, and I will be sharing my thought as how I picked up the idea and what were the challenges, then how data was collected, later on how data was analyzed, and what were the findings, etc., and what are the post-publication practices which I usually do, just for the sake of sharing with an audience. Then we'll talk about quality perspective in qualitative research, how to establish credibility as a researcher, what to do, what not to do, and what are the parameters when qualitative research papers or qualitative writing is actually investigated or evaluated. And finally, would love to have question and answer session, and I always call it the heart and soul of my webinars or seminars or workshops or lectures, that the question and answer session should be there so that we learn from each other's experiences. And I will share my thought here as well. Now, the state of research in universities. Uh, if I ask you that what are the challenges when it comes to research, so is there anyone who would like to share his or her thoughts that what are the current challenges facing faculty or facing researchers with respect to research and publications? Any thoughts on it? Anyone who would like to share? Current state of research and what are the various challenges that we are facing as academics? Dr. Shiri, can audience participate?
Yeah, Dr. Kashif, audience, that is participants have been muted.
Oh,
so they'll
okay,
also post
okay.
their questions in the chat box. We'll have question and answer session after your presentation.
Okay. Then I will carry on with the boring presentation,
Sure. Please,
and we'll keep people listening and maybe sometimes going here and there. So let's say what happens. I'll continue with the discussion then. So we'll have question and answer session by the end of this presentation. So then what I will do, I will probably I will go through the PowerPoints then first. Again, my thinking is that when it comes to research, narrow-mindedness is quite common. For example, caging in functions and caging oneself in disciplines is a barrier to the advancement of science. For example, if you happen to ask Newton or Einstein that which discipline they belong to, perhaps they were not thinking in terms of disciplines. They were not thinking in terms of caging themselves into narrow-mindedness. They were perhaps thinking to advance science in a way that it brings betterment for the society, it brings betterment for the people, it brings betterment for the ones who are by large the stakeholder groups. So one problem that I foresee in today's academic research and applied research even is that we are too much into functions, we are too much into disciplines. A person belonging to HR and finance or marketing is only publishing or is willing to publish in a particular domain. It has its benefits, has its advantages as well, but I guess there is some problem part as well, and that I will be discussing later on the day as how it happens. Just give me a minute. Just a minute. Hold on, please. Yes, I'm sorry, I just had a call. So, okay, so I was talking about this narrow-mindedness. Generally speaking, the people, they are too much into their disciplines, too much into the functions. By the way, these are organizational functions. And if we talk about business, the field of business and management, the theories are coming out or arising out of biology, psychology, sociology, not within a particular discipline. So one problem with the mindset of researcher is that they are too much into functions and too much into disciplines. This is one of the problems which I foresee. Secondly, there is some scarcity of confusion. We usually say that the resources are limited, but I also think that it's not only the resources. At the same time, it's the confusion that we are not willing to live in. It is a great quality of a researcher that if you can really strive yourself and sustain yourself in the state of confusion. And that is a beautiful nature of qualitative research, that till the end of the day, till the day you will finish the data, you don't know where you are heading towards, because you are just a dialogue, you are just an instrument when it comes to qualitative research. So this scarcity of confusion uh, also highlights lack of training in a way that we want quick answers. And one of the beautiful characteristics of quantitative research is that it gives you quick answers. It just sheds some light on the data which you have collected and quickly gives you results. Qualitative is not like that. So one another problem is to deal with the confusion, to deal with the illusions and ambiguities. Another problem which I foresee in the state of research these days is that made in effect. We usually go for glamour reading, we usually go for the high impact factor type of journals. There is no harm in doing that, but at the same time, the love for knowledge and love for reading and love for seeking and love for development, personal development, and then via personal development to societal development has been on the fall, which really which is like affecting the way we live as an academic. So I'm not saying that we should not read literature or cite literature from top class journals, but reading, writing, publishing, sharing in the classes, and constructing a personality, all these are important things, not only running after a large number of publications and at the same time reading only from selected group of journals. And it's a debatable topic. I can share further details if someone raises a point at the end of this presentation. So another problem is that we are too much trapped into high profile, high ranked, high quality impact factor type of things and pseudo publishers, which is not advancing science, but also causing some sort of trouble to establish a community of researchers who respect each other somehow. Then another point which I want to raise is that um, another point is that why indigenous research, which is closer to problems you see, is important. And here I would like to make a case. Why qualitative research, indigenous research, context-driven research, why it is important, why there is a need to do that, because quantitative research is very easy, qualitative comparatively is challenging. Quant, definitely you have to understand some data collection technique, data analysis technique, statistics, data presentation technique. But qualitative is more like manners, qualitative is more like digging deeper, thinking about reflecting on it. So why there is a need to go for this indigenous type of research? One problem is that student engagement. It is like there is a this was a one of the article published by the Guardian, one of the popular journal magazine, not the journal, sorry, popular magazine in the higher education. They say that why we should bulldoze the business school. One reason they say that the faculty is engaged in a lot of fancy publications, and the relevance between theory and practice is not there. So at one side, student engagement is a challenge. On the contrary, the high quality research no one reads. And if people read, the research is that much complicated and complex that for a manager it is very hard to understand. So it entails several aspects that I'm not again saying that we should publish such research which is very easy and simple and written in small in such an English which is easy to understand for others. No. But the point is that it should be closer to context. We should not engage in a fancy publication only, but at the same time, we should engage in some context relevant research, which is possible when we talk about the qualitative research. And it's a problem with business schools because MBA programs all across the world are badly hit by the COVID and also some other macro challenges. and the enrollments in MBA programs is on the decline on all across the world. So this is a very useful product at a given point in time. I don't know, people say that it has lost its maturity, no, it's moving towards decline. But if we just talk about this maturity and decline phenomena, after decline, sometimes there is a boom as well. So that's why I'm talking about is roughly that how we can remark the business school or the universities in particular. And this is yet another article which was published by another magazine, The Conversation. They say why business schools so radically think, because employers believe that the skills which graduates possess are not relevant to the industry. So if we go back just a slightly, student engagement is one problem. Fancy research publications which has nothing to do with the practice is another problem. And the relevance between theory and practice is yet another issue. And finally, this graduate, those who are graduating from the universities, of course, they have to enter the job market. But the employers believe that the students, they do not have necessary skills. So these are the contemporary debates and dilemmas. In addition to that, if we look at the local problems, if we look at trafficking, breast cancer, rape cases, stigmatization, divorce, pollution, obesity, these are not area-driven problems. For example, I cannot say I'm a marketing researcher, I cannot focus on breast cancer, but breast cancer is such a problem which is, faced by societies by large. In Pakistan, because I belong to Pakistan, so I put number here. Um, every 3 in 9 females, they have this risk of breast cancer. Every 3 in 9, which is among the highest in the world. Stigmatization is very popular phenomena. People are being bullied by their age, by their skin tone, by their height, by their body weight, by their body image, and etc. etc. Divorce rates are mounting all across the world. Pollution is a bigger problem. Smoke these days, not only in Delhi and Lahore, but also I was reading just a few days ago that in a small country like Sri Lanka, in Colombo, the environment is hazy, it's not very health effective. So these are not the discipline driven problems. Instead, these require you to go out of your discipline, think like a researcher, and offer some solutions, maybe to the public policy makers sometimes, and also to the people who are managing some organizations. But this is possible when we design our research and conduct and execute our research around such problems which are needed by the society. And just to conclude here, that our problems are not as sophisticated and disciplined as our research interests and degrees are. For example, an example is MBA, Masters in Business Administration. Now, just imagine that a person who is working for a charity hospital. So I cannot say, no, I don't have any interest in charity. You as a manager should be able to tackle the problems, should be able to address the problems. And as a business school academia and as a university academia, I think we should teach our students to think about holistically about the problems, because social problems are really challenging the way societies live. So somehow I want to say that if you want to really contribute to the society and to the industry, the problems are not very much sophisticated. The problems are just wider, and our solutions should be that much holistic that we uncage, untangle ourselves from various disciplines where we are actually hiding somewhere. Another example, with a practical example, I will share that reality is complex and is beyond traditional approach which is used by researchers. For example, the problem is availability of clean water. It's a problem in all across Africa, in all across Asia, Pakistan, India, China, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Malaysia, all these people, all these countries, they are facing such problems. Now, if I look at the research areas, if I say, let's say too many water plants, they are sucking deep earth water, which is best suited for agricultural development. So it has some, if someone has some interest in public policy, can conduct a study on it. Then affordability of branded water, this is marketing and economics. Corruption and installation of filter plant, this is ethics and morality. Wastage of water by public, this is consumer psychology and mannerism of society. So if you see that the problem, you have to look from various affairs. Even this, taking this problem as a problem at hand for a MPhil or a PhD research project, it would be really hard for us to really cage it into a discipline. Public policy, economics, ethics and morality, consumer psychology, And unless until a person is that much holistic and is being allowed by the institution as well, we cannot offer solution to such problems which are really the actual problems of our society. Moving forward, now what actually this qualitative research is about? I'm not going to read theory or going to read the books. I have some personal understanding about it based on my experience, some reflection about it. You can reject the definition, you can accept the definition. It's completely up to you. But it is just the way I think about qualitative research. I consider it a surprising process. It's a surprising process because every next interview might surprise you, might give you such a data which you are never thinking about. You apply any technique, either it is observation, either it is a dialogue driven interview, either it is a scientific writing and its content analysis. It is just a surprising process. Process of what? An artistic inquiry. It is an artistic inquiry. At the same time, it is a scientific as well. So, what do we mean by artistic thinking? Is that it is thinking beyond boundaries, it is thinking out of the box, it is not a pseudo thinking that I'm reading a literature and reaching to a point that this is the gap. No, it is just coming out of the box and coming up with problems which are overlooked by a lot of researchers while assigning special meaning to our life. I'm not saying social life. It is also the metaphysical aspects because there are a lot of things about spiritual beings. There a lot has been said about emotional being. Lot has been said about being individual as a as a person to sustain in this society. So to me, qualitative research is a surprising process of artistic inquiry while assigning special meaning to life. Why I'm saying special meaning to life? Because in qualitative research, you would be listening to the stories of common people and giving it your meaning, which must be a theoretical meaning. Otherwise, it is just the common areas where people are talking about. Some details as how qualitative research you think is different and thinking is different as a qualitative researcher. For example, it is like redefining the social word in research. Usually, when we teach research methodology, I hope my peers and colleagues would agree, we talk about human beings by large, that this is our social world, their relationship, their thinking, their emotions, their attitude, and their behaviors. But bringing dogs into perspective as well, it means animals are also part of our social world. Plants are also parts of our social world. Mountains are also parts of social world. Sea is also part of our social world. Just think about pollution research. Just think about tourism research. Sea is part of it. Okay, so when we say social world, it is not only the human beings, it includes dogs, it includes plants, it includes mountain, it includes sea, it includes space, it includes clouds. So it is a human interaction with all these objects which are there for, as Allah says in Quran, that these have been already by default conquered by for the human beings. Allah made them like so that you have seen that human beings they can easily travel through the sea, they can easily ride bicycle on the mountains, they can easily run through the tough lands, they can easily enchant on the lions, even the lioness, the strongest species on earth. You can train them, you can cage them, and still they can live happier with you. Dog being a very sometimes very dangerous animal, but still dogs can be pets. And this research, which you can see on the screen, is published by a top class journal in management human relations. And they say that the human to dog interaction is that important that it can supercharge theory of petting, that what is the animal human interaction and how it can enhance workplace performance of human beings. Another, fun and organizational behavior research. This one beautiful paper says that juggling, stunts, and antics, the meaning of work for circus artists. Generally speaking, when we say HR research and those colleagues who are working in the field of management and human resources, generally speaking, what we do, we try to collect data from those people who are the luxury audience, I call them. CEOs, managers, general managers, functional managers, but there are people who are performing dirty jobs. It's a term which is being used, dirty work. Dirty jobs is consisting of those jobs which are uh, up to some stigma in the society, where occupational stigma is there. For example, sweepers, for example, cleaners, for example, nurses, for example, frontliners, for example, circus artists, for example, prostitutes. So this study talks about the meaningfulness of work for circus artists. So what I want to say that your passion and your fun can be nicely connected to your area of research, which could be organizational behavior. But if you are fond of watching a circus, you can still make a relationship between the two. And of course, they have some their problem as well. Beggars also have some problems. Likewise, all so many people who are working in the lowest cadre of the society, they are having equal set of problems. So who will investigate their problems? For that, we cannot use the already established frameworks, because the problems are their problems could be the group work problem, their problem could be hierarchy problems, but it needs more attention, more, more closer observations as well. Walking gossiping. When we go for some hunting with our friends, what we do? We walk and we gossip. So this interesting research is about ecofeminism in masculinity, in masculine cultures where gender roles are very clear, just like Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, China, where gender roles are very clear, Indonesia, Malaysia, where gender roles are very clear. So this study is about that how if you just spend some time among your friends, you walk with them, you gossip with them, still you can publish in the top class journal in the field of marketing. How of course can be further discovered by reading these such articles which I'm sharing with you today. And so the point is that in your daily life, previously we were talking about circus, and before that we were talking about pets. So pets, circus, your daily routine life, your walking and gossiping can help you to contribute to publish a theory in the field of marketing. And then this one, the other side of comedy, which is the darker side of comedy. You see, I know, and a lot of people know that Kapil Sharma show is very popular these days in India. Okay, and Kapil is bringing a lot of smiles to the audience. This is one side of it. But is there any other side of it? Is there an element of morality included? I'm not saying that he is like doing some sin. No, but it is the way that you think about comedy. It is the way that you think about it. From Kapil Sharma show, what I can grab is that it's a beautiful. If someone from you is teaching a course in services marketing and want to teach a theater and role theory, I think Kapil Sharma show is a beautiful, could be a beautiful example in that. This paper, which I would like to share with you, is jokes can fail to be funny because they are immoral. So some jokes are at workplace, fun, joking, bullying, these are the first cousin terms, very close to each other, just a matter of perception. So, I mean, spending time with among the group of your peers and friends can give you some beautiful research ideas as well as how to advance work over there. Now, let us try to deconstruct qualitative research. For example, various characteristics of qualitative research as how it is a unique experience comparable with other sciences. First of all, naturalism. You as a researcher have to collect data in a natural setting. For example, from a teacher, idealistically collect data in the classroom. From a father, idealistically collect data in the household. From a let's say nurse, idealistically collect data from the hospital or the ward. So naturalism entails that you are collecting data in a natural setting. And a very interesting research says that climate change causing albatross divorce. So it is not only the divorce of human beings, please, we are talking about. Are we like, are we disturbing the life of other species on Earth? This is a very, very interesting insight into the animal life, into the bird life, that what human beings are doing and what is its impact. It's not impacting human beings only, it's impacting fish, it's impacting monkeys, it's impacting. I was reading about, not reading, I was going through a documentary on YouTube about the slums in Mumbai, about the slums in Mumbai. And in the documentary, the person was sharing his thoughts that There are so many monkeys around the houses which are newly constructed in those areas. Why? Because previously it was a land, it was a space where monkeys used to live and other animals. So once there are human houses, where monkeys will go, where the tigers or tigress will go, where their next generations will go. So we have to think holistically. For that, we need to untag ourselves and bring ourselves out of this pseudo and the traditional topics and thinking. So one characteristic of qualitative research is that you have to collect data in a natural setting instead of caging yourself into the traditional situations. Second characteristics is that you being a researcher is an active process. You are active respondent in the process. For example, if I'm interviewing you, I have to share my body language. I have to tell you that I'm listening to you. If you are sad, I have to act accordingly. If you are laughing, smiling, I have to act accordingly. So in quantitative research, you are not an active respondent. Maybe what I can do if I say that, okay, Dr. Shiri is just a nice friend and a colleague in India. So what I can do, I can email a questionnaire to her and she can get the data collected. But when it comes to qualitative research, I cannot do that. You yourself, as a researcher, is part of the exploratory process, is part of the data exploration process. So researcher is an instrument. It's not the questions you ask. Instead, it is the way you ask from the informant makes a deal. Number three, multiple interpretations of one reality. But because audience is muted today, otherwise it could have been beautiful explanation of this image, which I usually show to the participants in the workshops, that what they can see. So some see the piano bell, some see cartoons, some see cards, some see colorful, some see children, some see some cartoon characters. So there are different interpretations of a similar reality, and no interpretation is wrong. This is yet another characteristic of qualitative research. Another characteristic in qualitative research is the triangulation. What you have to do, you have to use multiple sources of data sets. Let us suppose the politics is very popular topic in our countries. Since long it has been very popular. Suppose you are deciding to vote for a political party and you think that you should seek opinion from your brother. Plus, you should recall your previous experience with a political party. Plus, you should read some newspaper of the last election era, or you should watch some TV programs. So, in this way, you are using triangulation as a technique. So, you are collecting data. This is triangulation of data. You are bringing it from multiple sources. One from your brother, recalling your personal experience, and reading the newspaper or watching some media. So this way, what we usually do, we triangulate. This is yet another characteristic of qualitative research. This is why we bring in the holistic perspective via application of qualitative research. Another characteristic of qualitative research is that it is like a bottom-up approach. You start your investigation or exploration, better to say, from interviews, you get some data, and this data is converted into some sort of patterns once read several times, and those patterns combine to make a theory, which means a better explanation of a social reality. Contrarily, a quantitative approach is a top bottom approach. You start with a theory, okay, and then what you do, you collect data and reach to a conclusion. So this way you are playing the role of a reductionist. This is in qualitative research, you are not a reductionist. Starting from a smaller sample, you are constructing a bigger picture. So this is yet another characteristic of the qualitative research. Another important characteristic of qualitative research is that it is context dependent. For example, the stories of partition, I can recall my childhood experiences. My grandmother used to share with us the stories of partition. Uh, and if I ask my son to tell me the stories of partition, he cannot tell. He cannot tell. So the stories of partition is just an example of a context, like stories of war, stories of crisis, stories of COVID. Those people who have actually experienced it, they are in a very good situation, in a very good context to elaborate on their thinking. So the qualitative research is more like context dependent. When I say stories of partition, I'm not talking about China and Japan here. Instead, I'm talking about Pakistan and India here. Okay, so qualitative research is more like dependent upon the context you are talking about. As I gave example, life during the COVID. Finally, another characteristic of qualitative research, just look at the picture for a few seconds. You will see different things. Maybe a bird, maybe a camel, maybe a person laying, a lot of other things, a lot of other interpretations. So qualitative research, the data emerges and the design emerges. You cannot fix it perhaps. To so many things, you cannot fix it. So this is yet another characteristic of qualitative research is as you progress, things evolve and emerge with the passage of time. And your definition of reality that also changes with the passage of time. Now let us move forward. What are the sources of various ideas? These were the characteristics of qualitative research which makes it unique comparable to other sciences. Now what are the sources of ideas? You can read the work of your interest. It could be novels, poems, history. This is one source. And the more you read unrelated things, a better qualitative researcher you will be. Secondly, press release on the current debates will give you another picture that what you should actually investigate these days. Brainstorming with the guru, someone who has expertise, someone who is very good or well versed with what he or she is doing these days. So having brainstorming sessions sometimes help you to travel miles and miles and million miles, even few minutes. Observation of a social or managerial issue could be at another source. Journal call for paper is a very theoretical type of source. The past projects, their limitations and future research directions. And sometimes suddenly you don't know, I don't know from where the ideas come, but those are given to you. It's like the prayer of someone, the blessing of Almighty. There are few ideas which strike your mind. But scientifically speaking, if you read the work of your interest, you can nicely link it with the two, with the research area you are working on. Press release, brainstorming with people, observation, journal call for paper in the past projects. Just few examples. Now, practical example. This is one of my articles, which was published in International Journal of Bank Marketing with one of my gurus, Dr. Anna Zarkada. Uh, Initially, we were thinking that, uh, like, from where the idea came from. I would like to, before telling you the story of this article, I would like to explain the process that what happened to us, how the concept of this paper. I was visiting a bank. It's just a story, a small story I would like to share. I visited a bank and observed that customer and staff both are harsh at each other. They were exchanging harsh words. And I was visiting the bank and I observed that customer and the frontline employee, they are exchanging harsh words to each other. Over there, in those days, I was teaching services marketing as a course. And when you teach a course, you see, you just wear it. Sometimes it is there on your nerves all the time. All those people who are teaching courses, hardcore type of teachers, those who are, they can relate with my words that value, for example, if you are teaching a course, you are always thinking about such a course. What are the concept and etc. So I was recalling that while teaching there is a topic of consumer behavior, and there I read that value is co-created. Value is co-created means both parties have to play their own roles. Okay, so I thought that if both the parties are not playing their role, one party is playing role, or let's say both parties are not playing their role, then what will happen? So this gave me a bit of curiosity, and I thought, okay. So I should think that if both parties are playing their role, this is what we call value co-creation. But if one of the parties or both the parties are not playing their roles, then what happens? So what I did, I came back having this idea and this observation in my mind, and I Googled this topic in via Google Scholar. I found value co-creation. It is gaining popularity in academia those days. It is around 2013, 2013 I'm talking about. So value co-creation was Virgo and Loesch, presented the idea, and it was just a decade, just 10 years, because in 2004 perhaps uh, they gave this idea. Although before that it was operant resources were discussed in economics, but in 2004 there is a paper which is cited by million times by Virgo and Loesch about value co-creation. So I came to this conclusion that this idea of value co-creation is gaining popularity those days. So I noticed that what has already written about it, and I was just going through various research papers. So what I found and what I was thinking that is it really a practical problem for banks? Are they looking forward to receiving a solution? And for that, I met with a few bankers. I visited bank again and met with a few friends who are working in a bank, and I asked from them that is there really a problem? So I came to the point, yes, it is a practical problem. Customer misbehavior in banking in those days was a practical problem. Today it is not that heavier a problem. Why? Because banks have gone online. In 2013, in Pakistan, in a city where I was trying to this problem, banks were not online. People used to visit banks, and they were spending a lot of time over there, and there were longer queues of customers, and the staff was there to guide and help and assist the customers to motivate them. So social roles, value co-creation, service dominant, people intensive industries. I was thinking at how it will extend the theory. And then how we decided that we need a qualitative approach. First issue was that how this issue struck my mind. So I visited a bank and I noticed people fighting to each other. And then I spoke with some experienced bankers, and they said that yes, Kashif, this is really a practical problem we are facing these days. Now, why a qualitative approach? Why not a quantitative approach? Because customer dysfunctional behavior, there has been a lot of theories were there already. People were talking about it, that customers dysfunctional behavior in 2012, in 2011. There are very popular papers, those were there. But the parents, family, wife, social political conditions, and our temperament as member of a society, all these needs to be explored. This was not mentioned in the papers, and this was a gap. And also, I was thinking that our colonial history, our family system, our family responsibilities, our social order, our education, its impact, our sophistication in industries such as in banking, everything needs to be explored further. So this gave me a clue that why not to have a qualitative approach instead of having a quantitative approach? Because I was thinking that if I will take all this into consideration, if I will take it into consideration, I can present a bigger picture of it. Moving forward, again, then I read the paper and I cited few papers in my article as well, 2010, 2013, and social order, social actor, frontliner, data sources. All these literature review, my observation, and interview with bankers. Three sources. I'm repeating again. My literature review, observation, and discussion with bankers. It helped me to qualify that I should opt for a qualitative research rather than a quantitative research, because I was expecting as a researcher that there would be different results. Now, why banking? Why grounded theory as a method? And why interviewing as a data collection technique we adopted? Because you have to justify everything you do while conducting qualitative research. So what I did, I observed that the incident of customer misbehavior are mounting in the banking sector. At the same time, banking sector is growing. Research has a potential to develop like utility. Research has some value because in banks when people are recruited, they went through the management trainee officers program. They are given 2 years of training. Okay, they are given 2 years of training. So via this MTO program, if we can share with them that how to tackle with the problematic customers, this research could have some utility. Then socially visible contexts are high in emotionalism. Customer, employees, staff, society, everyone was high in so emotionalism and reputation issues with the bank as well. So this qualified us that the banking sector could be an interesting debate. Then about the technique, we opted for critical incident technique because customers and employees can easily recall recent incidents, which they can tag as critical incidents. And the critical incidents is very common. Like misbehavior was very common. So we call this misbehavior as a critical incident. And it is an innovative technique used by the grounded theory researchers. And then we had some in-depth exploration, which was needed via interviews. This is why we decided grounded theory-based interviews, because it helps you to explore the context in details. And face-to-face interview provide you the opportunity to establish rapport and establish trust among each other. At the same time, seriousness and the credibility was very important because when I visited banks, I was formally dressed. I was looking serious, serious, not mean having a very boring and serious and drowning face. No, looking forward. I was giving a message that I really wanted to do research and explore this phenomena. There were people and there were instances where they were like trying to just roar the discussion from one side to the other. But again, the focus was there. So I was formally dressed, speaking like in a lighter tone, attentively listening, recording everything. This was my seriousness. And about my credibility, of course, the expression that I'm coming from a university and in a formal decorum, like having all my tools with me, it was giving them a message that I'm really, really interested to explore the problem. Then what happened? Issues during the data collection. Sorry. There was a lot of irrelevant talk. Okay. For example, when bankers knew that I'm a teacher, they were asking me about scholarships and where from I belong to, and also they were also asking some other personal questions. So it is very hard during qualitative research that you should be able to tackle and you should be able to remain focused towards the problem you are trying to investigate. I'm not saying straight away you say, okay, no, 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 please, this is not our topic, this is our topic. No, you have to use some implicit, indirect manner in order to approach the informants. I didn't have control over interviewees. A lot of disturbance was there during initial interviews. They were attending phone from home, from work, from friends, from everywhere. Okay, and initially I was thinking, oh God, what is happening here? Because I opted for bank branches for interview customers and bank branches for interview employees. And luckily later on the day, I requested employees to sit in the meeting room one on one so that I can talk to them and in a very formal but silent place, at least I can grab their focus while interviewing. Lot of emotions were there when I was interviewing a lady. She started crying while sharing an incident. Okay, at the same time, a lot of data. So for me, the problem was not data, but a lot of data. So to classify data, I remember it was just closer to 30 pages, 30 pages, 30 pages for 5 interviews. And then it went on. We had like closer to 100 pages for our interviews, which were tape recorded and then verbatim written as they were recorded. So there was a lot of data. So if you're not someone who is very good with reading, who can analyze a lot of textual data, qualitative research is a challenging process. But it is not a weakness of you. We can grab the skill with the passage of time. And for customer interviews, there was no silence. For employees, even, there were people who were calling them, where have you gone? What are you doing? Leave the interview, attending calls, going to work. So all these problems were there. So when we say naturalism is having this set of problems, but you should be able to cope up with these. Then usually people use softwares, but I do not use software even today for all my papers. I do not use any software. I happen to use NVivo as a software for few of my papers, but later on I abandoned this technique and I became a very traditional, outdated type of researcher, a qualitative researcher where I collect data, record the data, then I type the data, then I read the data, then I analyze the data, and on a written text, in a hard copy written text, I use highlighters to reach to certain themes. Okay, so I'm not the one who is using fancy softwares, but if you are good with softwares and you feel comfortable, you can use it. I feel comfortable with the software, but from the inside, I don't get any satisfaction that I'm using a software for a particular set of advantages. So that's why I opt for a very traditional approach. Each interview, I used to read each interview, and there is one very important term which is used, cognitive ownership. See, when you conduct an interview, you record it, you listen it, you type it, you read it several times, so you can memorize the interview. It is not the purpose that you should memorize the interview, no. But you should know that in which body language person A was talking about these sentences. So if you have personally collected data and then recorded data and then neatly textualized data and then read data and then analyzed, I guess you can deeply reach to a point where you can definitely inform the potential research. And the interview protocol was emerging since we were using a grounded theory approach. So interview protocol was emerging with the passage of time. Likewise, at the same time, the data was also emerging. So nothing was constant in a grounded theory type of research. Usual practice after I publish my paper is that it's an article club for various courses that I teach. One problem which I foresee among the faculty members is that I don't know if you people do, I'm not blaming, just sharing an experience that we hardly share our papers. We hardly read our own written papers, our own published papers. So if you are doing it, that's fine. If you're not doing it, please make your article club. Okay, read them time to time. If someone asks you, you should know the story behind an article. Don't forget the story. At least write one page or two pages stories about different articles. Okay, so if you have, let's say, 100 articles or 50 articles, you have 100 beautiful pages to share with your colleagues. This would be an asset for the generations to come. It's not only publishing in journals, rather it is your reflection, how you reach to a point, how you reach to collection data, what were the challenges, how you encountered, what were the emotions, how this idea strike your mind. So all these are beautiful texts which you can share with your colleagues and students. So my post-publication practice is that I teach my articles in various courses, and I also request my friends that if something, while exploring my Google Scholar, if something they think is relevant, they should share with their students and let me know your Google Scholar accounts as well. If there will be something which is within my area of interest of reading or teaching, I will definitely share with among my students. Another is that this learning from research should be used in teaching to design courses, to design projects, and to design somehow in order to design your research and in order to design your, assignments and course projects. These learnings should be used over there. Another is that what I did in a training program, I shared it with the bankers. Once the article was published, I shared it with the bankers. Okay. And from their expert opinion, it was again an amazing experience to improve our research understanding because they are the ones about whom we are writing. Also, I shared it with my colleague for their feedback and also permanent observation that who is citing my work. It's not the obsession of your personality. Instead, you just keep a check that how your work is cited by others. What other researchers thinking about your research? So to me, it is very important, and this is just a common post-publication practice which I usually do. Now, the final part of my presentation is how to bring in quality in qualitative research. For example, there are people, when you submit an article, they will ask you this question, that why should I trust your manners? And why should I trust the data? Because sometimes there is no evidence. Okay, there is no evidence. Just a textual written file is there. So why to trust your manners and why to trust your data? How to go about it? Okay. So this is a list of quality parameters. Okay, and I will just go through these since you already know it. Criteria is credibility. The data should be novel, new, thought-provoking, etc., etc. Transferability, findings should be rich that you can transfer it to other contexts. Dependability, that you should be arrive at conclusions which are not common sense. Confirmability, that how it belongs to the previous research. Reflexivity, that it is actually original. Now, how to approach it in qualitative research? These are few strategies. Prolong engagement. In terms of banking, before data collection, before designing a study, during the data collection, and after the research is complete, you need to get connected with your informants. Get them familiar to you and you get them familiar to them. This is what we refer to prolonged engagement. I gave an example, a cricket player usually spends some time near the cricket pitch before the match, after the match, and watch the videos of the stadium, listen to the stories whoever played there. This is prolonged engagement. It's not only that you just come and start playing cricket at the point you are batting on a cricket pitch, but before that, during and after. This is what we refer to prolonged engagement. In my scenario, what I usually do uh, before the finalization of research, during data collection, and then after it. Another thing is triangulate. As I already explained it, sometimes you triangulate in terms of sample, and sometimes you triangulate in terms of data analysis, sometimes you triangulate in terms of data collection techniques. Then think description. You need to bring in such enriching data that it covers the whole perspective. For example, when I say banking and customer misbehavior, I should consider familial situations as well. I should be able to grab the data in that much thick detail that it clearly narrates about the context in discussion. Then audit trail is that you should keep record of everything. The emails written to people, the ethics approval, the data files, the analysis files, the initial coding, the themes, everything should be kept with you as a formal record in the form of folders in your laptops. Member check is that whenever you collect data, let's say you collected data from nurses, you go back to nurses and tell them that this is what my data says. And if they approve it, I guess this is a beautiful way to ensure quality in qualitative research. And sometimes they will tell you that what she said or what he said about a particular interview. For example, if you interview me and after the interview you present an analysis part to me, and I can clearly tell you, okay, this perspective should also be there. This element should be missing. This element should not be there. So this is member checking as an approach which is used by qualitative researchers. So lastly, the question is that can you link yourself with truly with the social words? All these are sources of knowledge when it comes to qualitative research, dining and togetherness, music, poetry, teaching, travel, wedding, funerals, yoga, dialogues, pets, religion, workshop, friendship, supervision, COVID, and all these elements, these can help you, even the beggars and the gangs. And if someone from you wants a study in gangs, the organization of gangs, I can share that what it has to do with the organization of gangs and advancement of organization theory. So thank you very much. And your questions are welcomed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Your intensive knowledge sharing on research will definitely help us to enrich and engage ourselves in depth into the research areas.
Thank you very much. Thank you. If audience have any questions, maybe you
Participants, if any queries, let us know through chat box. So there are a few questions. How do we identify topics of research area based on the recent requirements?
As I shared some example in my presentation, that the sources of ideas could be, let's say, your observation. The sources of idea could be discussion with a colleague, someone who has already published in a particular area. the sources of ideas could be, let's say, an observation of a social issue or a managerial issue. Likewise, any reading which you went through recent times, this could yet be another source of idea. Uh, the press release can be a source of idea. But in qualitative research, your observation and your discussion with someone who has already published in a particular area can make your day.
But sir, generally the journal call for papers will be in general, no sir. It will not be a specific one.
Yes, yes, yes. The journal call for papers at least.
So how do we observe that this is the specific area in which we can do for the research?
I guess the scope of the journal will determine the scope of the journal. If the journal is, let's say, journals such as human relations, they publish everything. The journals such as organization, they publish everything. They have not caged themselves into functions. They are not the journals of the functions. And journals such as cleaner production, journals such as Journal of Management, Journal of Organizational Behavior, they are journals with a wider scope. But if you say, let's say, International Journal of Bank Marketing, they are closely related to bank marketing. Journal of Sports Management, they are closely related to sports management. So I guess the scope of the journal and the direction of the journal, the readers of the journals, they dictate. And secondly, the call for papers, I guess it gives you at least an insight that how to get yourself published in a particular journal.
Thank you, sir. So one more question.
Yeah.
Actually, recently UGC has stated that there is not mandatory. It is not mandatory for PhD scholars to publish in articles in various journals.
Okay.
But at the same time, they have stated that the universities can frame their own terms and conditions. What is your view on this, sir?
Just it's a two-edged sword, I would say. At one side, it's very confusing. But what I would like to say that researchers should think beyond UGC, what UGC says. If you can do something for the betterment of this society via publishing, why not? This is one thing. Secondly, if you have published something, share it with your friends, politely share it among your students, and also try to share it with the decision makers. One beautiful practice since I had my PhD from University of Colombo, Dr. Priya. So one of the very good practices in Sri Lanka was that for so many research papers that their faculty was publishing, they were translated into local language. One-page summary into local language. So if my research can reach to a local farmer, to reach to beggars, their union, can reach to bus drivers, rickshaw, TikTok drivers, tuk-tuk drivers, and also to taxi drivers, and also to fishermen. If my research can reach them and can inform their decision making, I guess I'm doing the right job. So what UGC says and what I should do can remain a question of debate, but on a larger thing, I guess my research should create an impact somehow. And one beautiful way to do it is to translate at least one-page summary of your article or your thesis, share it among the local public. This is what I learned via my PhD from University of Colombo. I found it a very good practice because those people who are common men, they cannot understand English. So it's not their problem that they cannot understand English. They could not get education due to their personal reasons. So one thing is that to reach research with a foreign impact, thinking beyond journals and publications, maybe we can reach to people who belong to the lower cadre of this society. This is what I think about it. UGC can take a U-turn maybe after 6 months. They may come up with a different policy. So I mean, it's their agenda to decide on things that what do they think in future.
So one more question. Can you please give some guidelines on research in the area of finance and banking sector?
If you say in these countries, in countries such as Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, economies are already very problematic. Inflation rates are going on. So usually, first thing which I would advise is to go for call for papers. There are a lot of call for papers for journals such as Journal of Financial Services Marketing, International Journal of Bank Marketing, International Journal of Mediterranean, Middle Eastern Finance, and Journal of Behavioral Finance. So there are some call for papers. Researchers can seek help on it. This is one thing. Secondly, I would like to say that how the quality of life of a common man can be raised via our financial decision making. Now it is the right time to reach to that level. Otherwise, finance, marketing, and HR, I don't see any future because we are too much into the boardroom. We are talking about strategic things for upper level of audience. In countries such as where we are living, in Pakistan, you see 70% people are very close to lower middle class, closer to 70% of people. So they are not reaching to the boardrooms or they are not the CEOs or CMOs. So whosoever you are, either into finance, marketing, HR, particularly finance and economics, that it should ease the life of a common man rather than talking to more holistically about the top world order. It's a BOP, the bottom of the pyramid, which I'm referring to.
Okay, sir. So one more question. Actually, nowadays, most of the researchers, before submitting their research report, they would like to publish in Scopus. But almost all the Scopus journals are very costly. So if there is any journals which is doing free of cost within a limited time period, sir, this is a question.
Limited time period cannot be guaranteed, uh, but there are a lot of journals which are free. Emerald has a lot of journals, almost all the journals. In which specific fields the person is asking? Is it business and management? Is it business and management?
Sir?
The person is asking a question. Is he from or she from business and management background?
No, in general, she is asking.
In general, Emerald, Sage, Wiley, Springer, all these are free. Just don't always go for journals such as Frontiers in Psychology, those who charge $3,400 for a paper to get published. So there are so many other journals as well. Although such journals are highly respected these days, having a high impact factor, but I'm not that rich that I'll be able to publish in such journals. So likewise, if you don't have money, you don't need to pay. Just explore the websites intelligently. There are so many journals which are actually free. They don't charge money. They don't charge money. Don't hunt for journals who are charging money. Go for free journals. Emerald, Sage, Wiley, Science Direct, Springer, all these are databases which publish so many research journals. They are free, all free. It's just a matter of intelligently exploring the websites of the journals. Those who are rich can opt for the paid journals.
Thank you, sir. So one more question, whether all the journals will accept the qualitative research or it depends upon the scope of journal?
Generally speaking, when I say all the journals, so I don't have an idea of 50,000 journals, but most of the times, yes, if a journal is titled as Qualitative Market Research or the journal is titled as Journal of Qualitative Research, so they will definitely publish. And also there are, unless until there is a journal called Journal of Quantitative Studies or Quantitative Psychology, they will not publish qualitative research. Otherwise, they will publish qualitative research. There is no problem.
Yes, so there is one more question. A student would like to do her PhD, doing her PhD, and she's asking a question: is there is any suggestion for a research area in marketing field, especially related to consumer psychology?
Sustainable marketing these days. And he or she can get connected with me via my email address. There is a list of topics, but one of the topics which is striking my mind is sustainable marketing, sustainable consumption in particular. You see, in countries such as Pakistan, a lot of water is wasted by consumers during gardening, while managing their house cleaning. A lot of water is wastage. So, in a way, we need to protect our assets, protect our resources. It's not only the water, also the energy. Sometimes there are so many lights which are being switched on, not needed, but switched on. So when it comes to consumer psychology, particularly, I would say sustainable consumption is such an area which very good journals are actually asking for solutions.
Thank you, sir, for having cleared all the queries of our participants. May I now invite Dr. S. Akhtar Begum, Associate Professor, Department of Business Administration, to propose the vote of thanks.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening to one and all present here. First of all, I extend my sincere thanks to Almighty God for making today's event a resounding success. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks for the second day of International FDP. On behalf of the Department of Corporate Secretaryships, Information System Management and Business Administration, I extend my gratitude to our speaker for the day, Mr. Mohammad Kasif, Assistant Professor, School of Business, Gift University, Pakistan. Sir, thanks a lot for giving us your precious time in your busy schedules to share your graceful word. We are really enlightened with your knowledge and presence. So your session was very informative and this will surely be going to help us in handling the students with more clarity. A special mentions and gratitude to our management and respected principal Dr. Amtul Aziz for the constant support and encouragement in all our endeavors. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Firdaus Jahan, Vice Principal and Head, Department of Business Administration, and Dr. Barkat, Dean of Business Studies, Head of the Department of Corporate Secretaryships and Information System Management for being catalyzed that stimulated us to do our best and standing as pillars of strength. With a deep sense of appreciation, I thank our FDP coordinator and fellow faculty members for the untiring efforts and cooperations in the successful completion of the second day of International Faculty Development Program. Last but not the least, I thank the participants who showed an overwhelming response to invitations and made the International Faculty Development Program a grand event. I thank each one of you for your lively participation and interactions. Once again, thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here today. I wish you all a very good evening.